Hey Internet, welcome to Worldview Everlasting, your favorite YouTube addiction, and this is the 2 with 1 Stone edition. That is, I'm actually just filming 2 in a row with bad light on a dark and cloudy afternoon, because I want to make sure this one actually gets out to you. And Ask the Pastor question here on WEtv burst from, I don't have the person who it's from, but it's a common enough question, and we answered something like it on the live show about a couple of weeks ago. Nonetheless, I think it's worth bringing up again, because it's something you run into often enough. It goes like this. He says, I frequently see people taking selected passages from the Old Testament out of context and using them to argue that God is a moral monster. You can reference the top 20 evil Bible stories from commonsenseatheism.com. I did try to find the article and I couldn't find it. I don't think it exists anymore, but it's a good example. And you know what? All you need is the title. Top 20 evil Bible stories. There was the time that they threw Jezebel out of the window and she cracked her head because God said so. How evil, right? And so, or you got the classic one is the destruction of the Canaanites at the hand of Joshua, right? So we'll come back to that in just a sec. Finish the question. One time I had a friend tell me he decided the Bible was nonsense when he read that God hardened Pharaoh's heart in Exodus 9:12, the implication being that God intentionally hardened Pharaoh's heart just so he could be punished later. That's actually what the Calvinists, I think, kind of teach. So I'm not a fan of that idea, but yeah, right. How do we respond to these types of arguments? Well, first off, you can pick apart the original or the narrow argument if you want to, just by looking at the context of the text. So it's great. You found Exodus 9:12 where it says God hardened Pharaoh's heart, and you ignored the fact that up to this point Pharaoh had hardened his own heart just plenty on his own, right? That the issue is original sin within us is fully worthy of condemnation. We have done this to ourselves. So if God, after we refuse the good news of salvation, which Pharaoh kind of gets, I mean, God comes and is like going to give promises to Israel, and there are people who serve him, and he rejects all of this, like to say, well, it's unjust, right? So imagine that you have a criminal, right? You got a criminal, and you bring him into court. You say, hey, criminal, you know what? We're going to give you another chance. You can go free. And he's like, screw you, judge. Forget that. I'm out of here. I'm going to go do whatever I want. And so if the judge throws him back into jail, is that unjust of the judge? No, it's just an idiot of a criminal, right? And so you're taking a story about an idiot of a Pharaoh, who's one of us, he's a sinner just like us, who doesn't repent, and you, as an idiot of a sinner yourself, you're looking at it and you're using that idiocy as your excuse to say God is awful so you can continue in your idiocy. It's really kind of a, what do you call it, circular arguing and ignoring the context. So that's the narrow, right? How do you really respond to these arguments? First, responding to any argument, a lot of it has to do with your context. Are you doing this in written text online in a Facebook forum? Be careful, Will Robinson. Or, is it Will Robinson? Yeah, Danger Will Robinson. Or are you having a conversation with a good friend on a Friday afternoon over a beer on the patio, right? And is this person trust you? Are they willing to listen and have an engage in a back and forth, or are they just looking to one up you and beat you in the argument, just cause, right? Is this with some friends at college who you're trying to convert, and so it's more of an apologetics thing, right? Generally, I mean, there's nothing wrong with apologetics. Be careful, though, if you're in that kind of a context, and certainly be careful if you're trying to have an argument or a discussion about theology online. It's very, very challenging to do. You got to watch your language carefully. You got to not take offense when they're rude, and you got to know that they're going to be rude and not realize how offensive they're being with some of the short answers that they give. But generally, the tact that I think personally that I think you need to take with this kind of conversation is twofold. It's twofold. First is to say that to try to say, look, if you're going to understand the answer, you have to understand, you got to let my perspective kind of stand as authentic and as reasonable first. Assume that I have a good reason. Assume that there's an explanation for this, and try to see it, right? Try to put the best construction on the answer, as opposed to treating it like a straw man where you're just looking for an answer that you can knock over. Because it's real easy to knock over God the homicidal maniac. Like, that's really easy. But no Christian actually believes in God the homicidal maniac. They believe in the God who saved us homicidal maniacs by letting us string them up on a cross, right? So then why would that God decide to destroy the Canaanites, for example, of the top 20 evil Bible stories, or to have Jehu throw Jezebel out of a window? Well, largely because they were murderers in the first place. They were people who were doing quite wicked things in the first place. And so just as you would want a mass murderer who's shooting kids at a school in Colorado to get taken down or at least stopped by the police, right? You wanted Jezebel to be stopped from doing what she was doing. I mean, this is a woman whose daughter basically murdered all her own grandchildren to try to hold on to the throne for herself, right? That's the kind of virtue that you're dealing with in that individual. Somebody who is murdering the prophets, like sending out armed guards to kill faithful pastors, right? And so if God then lets the authorities that exist, he sends the civil authorities that exist to stop this mass murderer, and they do actually throw her out of a window. Actually, I think she throws herself out of a window. Is that right? I can't remember. Anyway, how is this unjust? He's stopping evil. Do you get mad when Captain America finally gets rid of the Red Skull? Was that unjust of Captain America? Just because, is that moment with Batman and the Joker, right, where he's trying to save the Joker and the Joker lets go and falls, and I mean, I think you're expecting a little much of goodness at a certain point when you think that goodness is capable of dwelling with evil. There's a certain point at which evil simply needs to be destroyed, right? And we all acknowledge this is why we have jail. If you didn't believe this, you believe there should be no jail. You just, anytime someone steals from you, you just try to talk them out of it, right? At gunpoint, they're robbing you. Well, just talk them out of it. Oh, you can go ahead and have it, right? We don't do that. Nobody does that. It's unreasonable. So try to get into that perspective that the God who's doing this is basically putting civil limitations on, too much time already, civil limitations, civil punishments on history and society itself so that we don't destroy ourselves before the flesh, Jesus, Jesus can come of our flesh, of the bloodline, which he's preserving because she's trying to kill it. When her daughter kills all of her own grandsons, she's killing the heirs to David's line. Only one of them survives, and it's because the priest hides him, and she wanted to kill him too, and that would have actually stopped the Christ from ever coming or existing, at least according to the promises, right? So he's making sure the promises of salvation get fulfilled. When God shows wrath, it's only in order that he might show mercy. He does so as a box hedging us in so that the bigger mercy can get to us. And why did he do it in time and space rather than right at the beginning with Adam? I mean, the answer to that was because he wants to save you, and you weren't there yet, right? You're here now with these words coming to you. So put the best construction on the argument, right? Let my argument at least stand as reasonable, and don't tell me I'm unreasonable. And trying to be winsome enough, I guess I would say, to get to that point. It's like, look, if you can at least just recognize that we both have reasonable positions and neither of us are filled with animosity on this matter, and that I'm not actually an idiot, right? I'm not a moron worshiping a spaghetti monster, right? But that I've thought this through and I'm convinced of something. And then here's the other issue, the second issue. This will have to be brief. But the thing is, we don't go to the Bible and see what happens to the Canaanites and be like, oh, that convinces me to become a Christian. That doesn't convince me to become a Christian. I understand that through the thing that does convince me to become a Christian, which is that the one man, Jesus Christ, who we murdered, didn't stay dead as proof that he's God, and said, by the way, this forgives everybody, regardless of how wicked they've been, and that's been the point all along. And so it is that historical fact with the historical evidence that convinces me to be a Christian, and then to try to understand everything else in the Bible through that cross, through that gospel, rather than just kind of picking and choosing the verses that I think are easy to knock over because I want to beat up a strong man to feel good about remaining in my folly. I wouldn't say the folly part to your friend to his face. Not like I just did it, at least. Unless you're friendly and laughing about it. Yeah? All right, cool. So, Worldview Everlasting. Ask the Pastor Burst for your Friday afternoon. Thanks so much for watching. Join the Lutheran Ninja Clan if you like this stuff and you want to see it keep going. You can check that out at worldvieweverlasting.com, and also check out our next live show on August 15th, Tuesday night at 6:30 p.m. at facebook.com/ at youtube.com/worldview everlasting. Right. My name's Fisk and stuff, so catch you later. Rock on.